Do any of you remember this really interesting FPS series? It featured destructible environments, mixed vehicle and infantry warfare, a satisfying and unique class system, and massive 64-player battles? I am, of course, talking about Enemy Territory Quake Wars. But seriously, can someone just remake this game? It was pretty awesome. No, of course I'm talking about Battlefield, as we finally have some solid news in what has been one of the darkest, longest, coldest, and emptiest ages in the franchise's existence. And unfortunately, the dark age of Battlefield is continuing. For another year at least, as EA has announced in its latest earnings call and confirmed that a new Battlefield title is coming beyond fiscal year 2025, which for those unaware is likely beyond this year. With Battlefields always releasing in autumn, usually around end of October into November, this means we are actually more than a year away from a new title and likely over a year and a half away from one. This would of course be the largest gap in releases since the franchise started, from what I can remember. I'm too lazy to Google it. Now I do have a few thoughts around this, mostly centered around, well, that kind of sucks. On the one hand, the last thing I want to do is see DICE rush another poorly baked and poorly developed and underbaked Battlefield game out the door in an attempt to salvage the franchise. So in a sense, I'm glad they're taking their time, and if this is true, giving at least a full 4-year development cycle on the new title, as we can safely assume the majority of DICE teams were immediately moved to the new Battlefield after the launch of 2042, because I absolutely refuse to believe that 2042 has had anything but the thinnest of skeleton crews working on it since it launched. However, on the other hand, I really don't think development time is the main factor and problem here, as much as just general artistic direction and lack of vision at DICE Studios. It's harsh to say, but Battlefield 2042 was given a lengthy development cycle and a slight delay, and we all saw how that turned out. If 2042 had been given another year to cook, would it have been just as big a disaster? Probably not. It's highly likely that it wouldn't have been as underbaked and broken, but there's still massive fundamental issues with the game's design that prevents it from reaching the beloved status of other entries, even with 2 years of fixing and patching. The presence of specialists and their impact on every element of the game's design, the general map design and philosophy, the 128 players and its impact on the gameplay systems, lack of basic features such as server browser and persistent servers, these were design choices. These were not results of a rushed development cycle. At least that's my opinion. Of course, I don't know what went behind the closed doors at DICE Studios. The maps are arguable, with these so-called pathetic reworks literally just putting finishing touches on the maps, but even with those, most if not all of them are still fundamentally broken and poorly designed and just plain not fun. It doesn't matter how long a shit pie sits and cooks in the oven, and when you finally pull it out, it's still a pie full of crap. That's a terrible analogy, but I'm rolling with it. But unfortunately, this also means that we're stuck with Battlefield 2042 as the latest title for the longest period of time in the series' history. That's kind of depressing. And while it's still technically being supported with, again, the bare minimum content I would expect, it's like, why? Why did this title, out of any Battlefield, have to be the one to get the longest post-launch support? This is a pipe dream, and it wouldn't make any sense economically from DICE and EA's perspective, but I wouldn't even be mad if they just said, you know, we did enough seasons on 2042, we still have a ways to go on the new one, here's some new content for Battlefield 5 while you wait. I would enjoy that. While 2042 has improved, certainly it's still undoubtedly the worst title in the entire franchise, and it just feels bad that it's the one that we'll be stuck with the longest. Another question on my mind as we think of the new Battlefield is, will there be any hype for a new title at all? I honestly don't think so, but I could be wrong. I just don't know what DICE does at this point. They can't really run with a return to form, return to classic Battlefield style of marketing campaign, because that is literally the exact campaign they ran with for 2042. The trailers and reveals showcased imagery reminiscent of Battlefield 3 and 4, with highly tailored footage to make the maps look incredible, and carefully crafted editing to hide the presence of specialists as much as possible. And the specialists that were shown with the most militaristic gear and cosmetics that they had. The hype train for 2042 fell off so hard that it exploded. However, they also can't exactly run a marketing campaign that basically just promises to undo all the damage 2042 did. What do they do? Have trailers showcasing the return of classes and destruction? It would just be straight up embarrassing, even though I assume that's probably likely to be the case. Another real possibility, and this is me being as cynical as possible to be fair, is given DICE's straight up incompetence with the launch and support of 2042, it's sadly highly likely as well that the studio at this point really doesn't know what makes Battlefield great, and they launch a completely tone-deaf and really destructive approach to the new title. Maybe they double down on specialists, maybe they showcase extensive, silly cosmetics, exclusively only featuring new specialists wearing them in the trailer, and instead of showcasing the classic Battlefield gameplay loop, maybe even just showing or revealing their latest pathetic attempt at a battle royale or extraction mode. As much as I love the series, and that's a cynical approach, I do want it to be successful and enjoyable again, but if they rolled with that, it would be kind of hilarious and just sad at this point. And undoubtedly the final nail in the coffin. Battlefield 2025 is the make or break title. I mean, 2042 already was that for many people, and it broke. It broke hard. As someone who plays Battlefield 2042 maybe once a month now, maybe, I'm just thankful past titles such as Battlefield 4, 1, and 5 all have relatively flourishing communities on PC, despite the hackers on PC for 5, which is really annoying. Because if 2042 is really all I had to play from the franchise, yeah. Let me know your thoughts on this announcement below and your hopes for a new Battlefield title in the comments. Do you think there will be any hype, or is the damage done by 2042 and to an extent Battlefield 5 just irreparable at this point? That's really all I had to say for today, just a nice quick update on a dark and depressing era in my favorite FPS series ever. Yeah. But I still hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe for more chill FPS content, and I'll see you next time.